Welcome. The March 15th meeting of the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission is called to order. Tracy, will you do the roll call?
Yes, Chair Clark. Vice Chair Friedman?
Here.
Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Barrett?
Here.
Commissioner Evans?
Present.
Commissioner Futterman?
Present.
Commissioner Ocanius? And Commissioner Torrens.
Present.
So for the record, Commissioner Ocanius is not presently with us, and if she arrives, I will let her in from the waiting room.
I'd like to welcome all of you to the meeting this evening. Program Coordinator Tracy Sheldon, commissioners, visitors, and our presenter tonight, Julie Warren from the Palm Springs Public Library. For visitors, there will be time for public comments later in the meeting. Please keep your microphones muted during the meeting and then raise your hand to be called to speak and then unmute your microphone. The first item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. The agenda was emailed and posted on Thursday, March 10th. I do have one change that I'd like to request before we express any other comments and accept the agenda. What I propose doing is to move new business. The one item is Palm Springs Public Library Summer Reading Program request for funds, to immediately follow the presentation by Julie Warren, because those items are related, and the new business item will require a vote. I want to keep it listed as new business, but by putting it right after the presentation by Julie, then she won't have to stay any longer if she doesn't want to either. Are there any other comments or are there objections to the change in the agenda?
No. No objection.
Reasonable.
Hearing none, then the agenda is accepted. And we'll move on to staff comments by Tracy, which are covered by the memo in the agenda packet. And I expect she'll have some other comments as well.
Thank you, Chair Clark. I just wanted to provide a couple of updates. First off, with the demonstration garden, we have received a list of approximately 15 plants that need to have substitutions from the original plant list. We have provided feedback to the contractor that there was a lot of input. I know from the Airport Commission in terms of plant selection. So they are contacting additional nurseries, and we'll try to make as minimal of changes as possible. Also, with the proposals for the signage for the demonstration garden, the pricing have all come from local vendors, and the array of prices are pretty across the board. So we've gone back to the vendors and asked them to confirm their pricing, make some modifications, and then we'll be able to I'll be able to present to this commission and also to the Airport Commission as to which design they like, because one of the vendors, Best Signs, had a completely different vision of the signs that really is attractive looking and very appealing, but it is much different than what was requested from the quote. So we're seeing how we can work with that. And then we have received some additional requests for sustainability scholarships since the packet was posted. So you will see some additional businesses listed on there. Did anybody have any specific questions from the staff comments memo? Okay, I will turn it back to you, Chair Clark.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comments. We have one visitor. Bernard, are you expecting to make a public comment? If so, I'll go through my spiel about the purpose of public comments. Otherwise, we'll move on.
No, I'm just listening in today.
Okay, thank you. So no public comments, and then we'll move right into the presentation on the Palm Springs Public Library Summer Reading Program by Julie Warren.
Thank you, Chair Clark, and good to see you all today. If I haven't had a pleasure of meeting all of you before, I'm Julie with the library. I've been with the library since 2006, and I have a long-standing relationship with the Sustainability Commission. I actually was a member of the city's green team at the formation of the Sustainability Commission and worked with Michelle Mycian. And I helped do the community garden at Demuth and all sorts of other projects. So I've worked with the Sustainability Commission for many, many years. So I appreciate you having me here today for your meeting. Specifically to the bikes, we've worked together on bikes as early as 2013 and then every year since 2016. And so I tried to, in my proposal, give you just a brief history so that you kind of have the background since most of you aren't maybe familiar with how the longstanding background and how you got involved with supporting the library during summer reading and the bicycles. So you guys have been a great partner in supporting bicycles for summer reading. And my proposal is for this year, and I do have 2 amendments to it. I want to let you know that we did tweak the summer reading date slightly. Previously, we started on a Monday, June 6th, and we will still do that. But we ended on a Thursday, and we were talking about it and decided we don't know why we did that. And so we had people coming in on Friday and Saturday of that week going, why can't we still, finish the program? So we did extend our end date to Saturday, July 16th. So that changed our finale date. So now our finale will be the following week on Wednesday morning, July 20th. And usually we invite you as if you were a supporter and sponsor of bikes, as you have been in the past, as many commissioners that want to attend that finale as possible. And we have you pick, the winners for the bikes and be involved in awarding the bikes to the winners and things like that. So we always like that interaction, and we are going to have a big public celebration this year. For the last 2 years, because of COVID, we've mainly been online and virtual, but this year we are going to have weekly in-person programs, and we are going to have a big in-person finale as we've done in the past. Usually we have several of our city council members come. We sometimes have media. We have hundreds of people usually come. We have no idea what this year is going to bring because we're not sure how people are going to, if they're going to come out even more because they were, sequestered for 2 years, or if they're going to be a little nervous and apprehensive, so maybe not as many people, but that will unfold as we get into summer reading, and we'll have some kind of sense every week when people are coming to programs in person and that kind of thing. I don't want to read you my proposal, but I also want to make sure that I am here to answer any questions you might have. I'm happy to do that, or to, go into a little bit more about planning for this year, or whatever you would like to know. I'm happy to answer for you.
I think we can move into the new business portion of the agenda.
Sure. Roy, I have one question.
Yes.
Julie, what do you know about how long the bikes have been kept by the people who received them?
Good question. So we don't know. We don't have specific data on that, but we do see the bikes. They come back to the library with many of the users,
Okay.
and we've had people, tell us, "Oh, I love my bike. I still have my bike." So by anecdotal, we know that they are around, but we don't track them, so I don't have specific data of like how many and how long they lasted. We have seen over time that, of course, especially during COVID, bike prices went up, helmet prices went up, things like that. But I think people were really, the bikes are always very popular. They're one of the most popular items that we have. And in the last 2 years, people virtually were able to put in their tickets for the things they want to win. And then prior to that, they actually put in like paper tickets. And we have little bins, and so we'd always see how popular the bikes were. And so they've always been super popular and things that people want to try to win.
Okay, and are these shorter bikes for kids, or they're not adult-sized bikes, right?
So in the past, depending on how many, the money we requested, how many bikes we were able to get, and we always targeted around this time because as you know, May is Bike Month, and a lot of places would have sales on bikes. So sometimes we were able to get more bikes than we anticipated because of sales. But we always got several kid bikes. We always got some kind of trike or something with training wheels, and we usually got a cruiser and or a mountain bike that could be won by a teen or an adult.
Okay.
And in the past, what we found is
That's fine. She was having a
that
bandwidth
adults
problem.
would
That's
try to win
plenty of
kid bike
answers.
kids. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
That's fine. You covered everything. So for me, thank you.
I'd like to move into the new business portion and have somebody make a motion and a second. I believe the request from the library this year is $500 for 3 bicycles. Is that correct? And once we've had the motion and the second, we can
That
have,
is correct.
thank you. Once we've had the motion and the second, we can have more discussion if anybody has any questions. So would somebody like to make a motion about providing funding for the summer library reading program?
No. Oh, Carl has. I'll second Carl's.
I'll move to allocate $500 to the summer reading program. Palm Springs Public Library.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Was that Dawn or Jennifer?
Jennifer.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion now that we have a motion and a second? Hearing none, then we should take a vote. Let's do a vote by raising hands. Tracy, you can see everybody, can't you?
Yes, I can.
So all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
That looks unanimous on this end.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Wow, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming tonight. And I just want to add, since I've been on the commission, which I started on in 2016, I've been to every one of the drawings, and it's a really great event. I've always enjoyed it. Thank you, Julie. And so
Thank
now
you so much.
you're welcome. Now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes for the February 15th meeting were emailed and posted on Thursday, the 10th of March. Are there any comments, corrections, or objections to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes have been approved. And so next we'll move on to old business. We're moving along quite quickly tonight. The first item is City Council priorities and work plan process, an update. And we had intended to have Deputy City Manager Flynn Fagg present tonight, but he's unable to attend the meeting. And so I'm going to try to cover the update as best I can. What's on the screen right now is what you saw from Flynn last time, a high-level list of all of the priorities that the council has selected. And the column 2, the green one, is environmental stewardship. And those are all the things that were accepted by the council. Most of them had been proposed by the commission, some of them had not. But you'll recall that when we had our special session in October, these are the things that came out as our priorities. So since our last meeting, the City Council held a special study session That was on February 22nd, where they went into more detail on the items in the priority list. And Tracy has the first page of that on the screen, and I'd just like to go through these rather quickly and to show you the detail that's been added. Basically what's been done is timelines have been established and more detailed steps have been established for accomplishing these major tasks. And you'll see that the first one is hiring a sustainability director and establishing budget and funding for additional positions. The expectation is there'll be 2 additional positions, and the timeline there is June to October of this year. The sustainability director, the position has been posted, and the deadline for sending in applications is the end of this month. So once that happens, there will be down selection and interviews, and then a final selection of a director. The next item is related to climate change and its complete greenhouse gas analysis. If you look at the dates there, April to December of 2022, that's a really aggressive schedule, but you'll see some of the things that are planned to be done during that period. The first is to expand the scope for PlaceWorks to do a greenhouse gas analysis, basically to look at what can be, how much greenhouse gas reduction can be achieved by doing various things related to energy and transportation. There are a couple of things that David Friedman has been working on aggressively. That's developing an ordinance requiring 100% carbon-free energy for targeted commercial businesses, and develop an ordinance for energy efficiency measures as part of building upgrades. It's expected that the participation of the Sustainability Commission will be extensive in this activity. And the final list of items on this page is to target high value projects and initiatives. And these are the things that we discussed in our February 15th meeting. And there's been some discussion on some of these subsequent to our February meeting. Moving on to the next page. And if you have any questions as I go along, please speak up. On the next page, where the major task there is implementation of Senate Bill 1383. And of course, we've heard a lot about that over the past several months. The chart shows things that have been accomplished. Applying for the SB 1383 grant funding, which Tracy has been reporting on. One item there is to adopt an environmental purchasing policy, and I'll have a little bit more to say about that as we go along. And another item there is to update the franchise agreement and present it to the City Council. We've heard a lot about that as we've been going along as well. And I believe the date for that now is April 7th, not March 22nd. Then some of the other things on this list, we have lesser involvement in, although they fall under environmental stewardship. Desert community energy, community composting. Tracy's been reporting on community composting and which is the work that she's been doing with the group to try to find a location. Commercial renewable energy standards. That's one that was referred to on the previous page. And clarify land conservation goals. That's something that another group in the city has been advocating, and the council put that on as a priority. And you can see the timelines or the dates that are specified for all of these items. And finally, on the last page, the first major task is integrating sustainability with other departments and initiatives. That's something that we were very strong about in our recommendations from our session in October. And this will be coordinated with the general plan update, and the staffing increase will also help with this effort. And the final item on this page is create green purchasing policies. And this is one thing that I wanted to go into a little bit more detail on. And the timeline is shown there. And the first item there is to draft an environmentally preferable purchasing policy. And it says that's completed. That's an item that had been on the agenda for the city council meeting last week, but it was pulled from the agenda. It's a document that has been part of the work in preparing for SB 1383. Patrick did a lot of work on it before he left, right before he left. And there's been some additional work done by Tracy and the legal staff since that time. But one thing about the environmentally preferable purchasing policy, say that fast, is things that it includes are procuring recycled content paper containing a minimum of 30% recycled content, purchasing products that have fewer toxic chemicals where possible, purchasing energy from renewable or green sources instead of from fossil fuels, purchasing products that contribute to improved indoor air quality, and purchasing products and implementing practices that reduce pollution and conserve water. These are aimed at city purchasing practices and policies. And in addition to these requirements, there are substantial reporting requirements. So the reason I wanted to go into more detail on that is that this item was removed from the agenda from the meeting last Thursday, the council meeting, but Councilmember Kors requested that the Sustainability Commission review this policy and then report back. And Vice Chair Friedman and myself have expressed an interest in working on this, but I wanted to open it up to other commissioners to see if you wanted to take part in reviewing this policy and then making recommendations back to the city council. I see the time frame probably being the next 3 months for doing that. So if you know right now that you'd like to do this, please let us know, or let Tracy or me know subsequent to the meeting. But I wanted to give a little bit more background on that particular item. And since we were asked to make a recommendation or make comments, I wanted to open up that to the whole commission. So are there any questions or comments on that or on anything else in the list of priorities?
I'd be interested in reviewing it, Roy.
Is that Randy?
Yeah, it is.
Great, thank you, Randy. We'll work out the logistics for doing that.
Roy, I'll have an update in my report on the 2 ordinances. I'll save it for that report.
Okay, okay. I seem to have misplaced my agenda here. So if there are, and thank you for volunteering, Randy. And if there aren't any other questions on that or discussion, then we'll move on to the next item under old business, which is residential energy efficiency rebate program. Tracy?
Sorry about that. I was just looking for the agenda to post that again. This ball is in my court to write the staff report, which I have not done yet. But I have requested some assistance, even if it's temporary assistance in the interim, just because I'm just not able to get to everything. And these types of programs and documents are very important. We're approaching the first set of reports to the state for under 1383, which are due April 1st. So this will probably be after that, because I think there's something like 600 reports that are due for this first reporting cycle for 1383. And then again, hopefully HR can provide some kind of assistance, even if it's answering phones, to provide more time for work. So my apologies for falling behind on that.
That's fine. Are there any questions?
I'll be available to assist once there's at least a framework for the report. And Tracy, I'll be able to carry as much as I can, given my workload as well, once at least have initial draft.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, David. Any other comments or questions? If not, then we'll move on to the final old business item, which is the 1 PS picnic.
Chair Clark, would it be appropriate for Commissioner Barrett to maybe update us on the picnic, since he is he's been working on that?
That would be fine.
And actually, I'm not working on it, but I hear everything about it. Everything is up to date. We're having a we're having a good increase in number of people wanting to have booths at it. So it's going to be fairly diversified. We're having more public groups wanting to be there, more nonprofits wanting to be there. So that will help. We have the basic organization ready to go. We have 3 food vendors. We lost one. And I can't really say why we lost one. I thought it was vaguely related to issues about foodware, but I'm not absolutely sure on that. It's going to be all day Saturday, or not all day, but a good part of the day Saturday. We will we're going to do the dog contest and all the other sorts of things. Since I'm more involved in working on helping get things set up, I don't think about that part of it, so I can't really say a whole lot to it. But there is a poster for it in the agenda for today, and that's a pretty good description of it. But I can probably answer questions if there are questions.
I would just like to remind commissioners that are in town. I know some are not in town this weekend, but if you are, the time is from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we will have a sustainability booth set up, a tent. So look for that. And of course, look for the Green Sustainability Commission tablecloth. And then I'm working with Palm Springs Disposal. So at the food area, there will be refuse, recycling, and organic food waste containers. So we can help assist folks who might have any questions about what goes into what item. Palm Springs Disposal is also going to have signage. And then of course, we'll have some giveaway items and educational materials at the booth. So if you're in town, please stop by, enjoy some food, and circulate amongst the community.
And I would add something I should have, which is that one of the big features this year is we're going to be honoring the efforts of all the city employees to help us get through COVID. And that will be an honor for them. And it's a public honoring of them. That's an important part of being there.
Don, is that going to be like a special time during the picnic, like a presentation or?
Yes, it is. And there is a special benefit, which I won't describe. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know the exact time of it, but there is a special time for it. But we're only 3 hours. So if you're there for it's enjoyable to spend most of the day there and wander around and see what people are doing and thinking. So it'll be evident when we're there.
And Tracy,
I thought I saw a hand up. No, okay.
any other questions? And Tracy, you'll be directing us in terms of staffing the booth and having people roam around to help the picnic visitors dispose of their foodware and waste properly, right?
Absolutely. So just look for me. Also on my email has my city cell phone number now as well. That's a 760 area code. So I'll have my phone on me. I might even wear a fancy yellow vest, so I am recognizable. But yes, we'll be helping educate folks, but we're also there for enjoyment. I think Palm Springs Disposal is going to have enough folks there, so have the mindset of semi-volunteering, but also enjoying yourself.
And Desert Community Energy will have a booth there. I
Great.
expect David will say something about that.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll now move on to subcommittee and commissioner reports. And the first is Standing Subcommittee on Waste Reduction.
Thank you, Chair Clark. The franchise agreement, I will share it with the commission. The only reason I am hesitating and not sharing it yet is both legal counsels are still making some final edits. Once those edits are received, it's going to go to the City Council Subcommittee, which is made up of council members Coors and Holstage. At the same time that I release the franchise agreement to them, I will release it to this commission as well. I just, like I said, I'm hesitant because I think it would be looked down upon if I released it to the commission before the City Council Subcommittee. But we're getting very close. As I stated, the first round of reporting for 1383 to the state is due April 1st. So there's a lot of different reporting elements, both that I'm working on and also Palm Springs Disposal are working on, because we all have our individual roles in that. The foodware ordinance is going well. We have met with over 200 of our food service providers, so we're working on making the dates for the next round of in-person visits. On an exciting front, we have made tremendous progress with McDonald's. McDonald's, of course, is a very large chain. We have a community member that owns, I think it's 4 McDonald's locations here in Palm Springs, but he owns a total, it's either of 32 or 34 McDonald's locations in Southern California. He also has been a franchise owner for 39 years. So has a lot of connections within the corporate organization. So we've also been working with the franchise owner in Berkeley, where they're using the reusable products. So it looks like a fry container, but it's made out of reusable plastic. Same thing with the burger containers, McNugget containers. And so the real challenge is the kitchens are built and designed to utilize every square inch in the back of the house at McDonald's. And so it's really incorporating, they need to incorporate dishwashers to accommodate the reusables. However, we're really going after this as more than just a Palm Springs initiative, but really trying to utilize the impact that this particular franchise owner has, and who is just a lovely human being, Dick Shaloub, and he's raised his family here in the desert. So we'll keep you updated on that, but it's very exciting that the foodware ordinance is exciting. We get a lot of calls from other jurisdictions throughout the state of California that are asking if they can, use our template to implement the same in their city. And then of course, the state, the on request is going into effect in June of this year. So it is really a great program. And Commissioner Torrance, I see your hand up. Do you have a question or comment about foodware?
Sorry, it was about you keep going. It was about the franchise agreement. It was just late to go up. There was a delay. So you are on a roll, keep going, and then we can circle back.
Oh, perfect. Let's see. I was going to make a comment. Oh, I also made sure to include the non-compliance numbers for recycling and organics. I included that, which you don't normally receive. Some of these numbers changed a little bit because of 1383, and some of those thresholds were lowered, so now we have more commercial businesses that need to comply. But our objective, and when I say our, I mean mine and Palm Springs Disposal, is we want to have all of the businesses in 100% compliance. So we're continuing to work on that. Some of them have space issues that we've talked about in the past, space issues at their refuse location. Another example, our friends at the Palm Springs Cultural Center, which also has the movie theater and has our farmers markets on Saturdays and the vintage market the first Sunday of each month. They have been struggling with their refuse area in the back, and they experience a lot of illegal dumping. And so we are utilizing the foodware scholarship, because there's technically 3 businesses out of that location, so that we can help them enhance their refuse area and expand the size, and also make it an enclosure very similar to what the Rite Aid on Indian Canyon has in terms of their enclosure. So I'm helping to be a conduit with our permitting department so that it doesn't get too confusing for them, and also trying to help them with the scholarship so that they will have a lovely area there, and they have a lot of different activities and those special events. So they really do need the refuse recycling and organics collection there. With community composting, I've been speaking with Abby Winston. We met in person, also with Haley and also Susan St. Louis. What council has dictated in the document that we went through is they really want us to make sure that we confirm a location this year, and then also gather what's the cost going to be. And so it's really viewed as this will be a city-run community composting with Desert Compost really advising us on how to set it up. But in terms of who is going to either own the space or rent the space, the city will take the lead on that, just so as to not confuse things. And there is, they went through their grant funding already. And so what it really is some of our community members want to utilize industrial composting, which will be offered through Palm Springs Disposal. We have other community members who really want to have a community composting. They want to, drop their own items off. They want to volunteer, turn that mulch into compost. So we're going about it to offer both, or at least offer to council what the parameters and costs and what is entailed to have community composting. So we have had very effective, beneficial conversations together. And so that has been positive. We have a little bit of a snag with our battery recycling program, which I personally get a lot of joy out of, because our community has really embraced this program. The volume of used batteries that we receive between City Hall, the library, the fire department, the animal shelter is tremendous. The library is requiring twice a week pickups now, just because of the volume that they're receiving. However, part of the legal language between our vendor, which is Battery Solutions, and our legal department don't agree with each other's language. So we are no longer allowed to do business with Battery Solutions. So I have been looking this week. There are other vendors out there. Battery Solutions was a great option. They have those containers that they provided to us, the collection containers at the different locations. And then of course the containers that we send back the batteries to be recycled to. So I haven't found a program as fleshed out as Battery Solutions. So I'm continuing to do that. Also based on the cost, I'll have to provide 3 different quotes to procurement. So it's just a little bit of a snag, but we will continue collecting the batteries and just store them somewhere until we get appropriate containers again, but we don't need to let the public know that necessarily. So we'll just continue because of its success. And the next e-waste event is right around the corner, April 23rd. So that's about a month out. Mark your calendar on that. And then we can return back to the franchise agreement discussions and take Commissioner Torrens's comment or question.
Thanks, Tracy. I was curious as it tied to the community composting. I know that I've been asking questions a lot about the franchise agreement, and I'm curious, I know you don't want to reveal anything until it's all, the ink is dry. I'm just curious, are there any surprises, particularly as it relates to this sort of collaboration of a community composting program with the new franchise agreement? Since that was initially something that was a bit of a rub, right?
Sure.
But you had offered some new language that was being presented, and I'm just curious if we know if that's staying in or if there are any surprises.
So former manager Tallarico, he really helped push for that language, and it's the language that Desert Compost is asking for. So that language has not changed. I don't have it in front of me. I know we discussed it, I think at last month's Scour meeting. It could have been 2 months prior, but that language allows community composting, whether that's Desert Compost or someone else. But it meets all of the requests except for, I think, being able to charge a rate for,
right,
like for picking up. That was the one thing that was kind of like the point of contention where Palm Springs Disposal needed that to stay in, and community composting was okay with.
Right.
And I'm happy to re-forward that language, but there aren't any changes. Because a lot of time was spent on that. And also we want to make sure that it is an activity that can occur and that the franchise agreement won't prevent it from occurring. And I think that we've really honed in on the language of industrial composting and community composting, and the two can coexist.
Great. Because I think what you had offered as the solution behind to avoid the issue around charging for a rate or a rate fee would be that it's a membership based program. So you can pay to have your stuff removed, but then, so that's how they would do any sort of upcycling in the community. So that's great to hear.
And you know, the constant need has been identifying a location, and you know, we did identify that location at Civic and Alejo.
Yep.
It's technically airport property. This was very similar when I was in South Lake Tahoe. City Hall was at the airport, so I'm familiar with some of the nuances that go on with properties on airports and FAA's involvement. So it's technically airport property. The city technically pays the airport an annual rent on that location. And then if it's a temporary activity, it sounds like it's something we can do. If it's a consistent activity, which composting would be, and we're also talking about wherever composting is going to occur, also adding aluminum can recycling as well. Because right now there's only the one location at the Smoke Tree Center. And so community members have been saying we want to have additional locations in town where we can recycle our aluminum cans. So this would be a consistent activity and would not have an end date. Because of that, then the FAA does need to weigh in. So I'm working with the appropriate airport staff. And so we are pushing for that location because it's right across from the maintenance yard. It technically has a structure on site. It has that horse stable. I don't know what the stability is of that structure, but if it is stable, you know, once it is reviewed and if it is structurally sound, that would provide the shade that the composters discussed. There's also already water on site. There's electricity. So it checks the boxes. It just depends on whether or not we can do the activity. So we're in process, and at the same time also trying to get some plan Bs and Cs in our back pocket so that we don't have to restart each time.
Great. Thanks for the update.
Of course.
Sorry, I missed the Scour meeting earlier in the month.
Any other questions on the waste reduction report? Chair Clark, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Tracy. And we'll move on to the ad hoc subcommittee on strategic planning and general plan update. And I'll just quickly report that we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with David Newell of Planning Services to talk about the update of the sustainability plan and how it might fit in with the general plan update. That's at 10 o'clock tomorrow. If anybody's interested in participating, let Tracy know and she'll send you the contact information, the Zoom information. So we'll next move on to solar and green building. David?
All right, thank you, Chair Clark. First, concerning the two ordinances that you mentioned earlier this evening. The first is I've updated the findings of the renewable energy ordinance based on the work from the cannabis consultant. He's working on a cost effectiveness analysis. And I'm also working with DCE's consultants on an estimate of the GHG emission savings from requiring commercial businesses to purchase renewable energy. I hope to have a new draft of the ordinance in the next week or so, and then we'll coordinate with Chair Clark and staff on outreach to stakeholders. Concerning the other ordinance, last week, the Reach Codes team released the multifamily module for the existing home energy efficiency model ordinance. I will update the ordinance I drafted, confirm it with the Reach Codes technical team, and then can discuss with Chair Clark and staff on next steps. The Energy Commission will launch a new round of EV charger funding on April 5th with priority for low-income communities and multifamily dwelling sites. And I've sent the announcement to staff as their potential for substantial grants for the city. And then finally, the Energy Commission has approved the final guidelines for the build program for all electric affordable housing. The Monarch project developer is ready to submit their completed application for funding. And I've also kept Commissioner Baker informed for the DAP Health Affordable Housing Projects and staff for the Navigation Center, which may also be eligible. There's a lot more going on, but that's my quick report.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions for him? So we'll move on to World Environment Day. Jennifer?
What I'd like to report to you first is that we were discussing, this year's theme is water and justice, and it was brought to my attention. Last year we did air and justice, and it was air or justice or the intersection of the two. And especially with water, there's so much water justice in this area as well. So we thought it should be clarified that it could be either water or water justice and not just justice also, just to make that distinction. So the flyer is being reworked and translated into Spanish. It should be ready to send out. So once that is complete, I'll send it to Tracy and you can send it to everyone to send out to contacts, and we can start promoting the contest. And the Environmental Education Collaborative is quite grateful for our contribution. We have just from our commission, that's half of the prize money that we need. However, we're thinking to possibly try to raise maybe an extra $1,000 just in case we need it as a buffer, because sometimes we have not every grade level represented, and that can kind of roll over to ties or things like that, but just to allot enough to make sure that if we have a huge amount of participants that we can, award all the best submissions. Let's see. We had talked about having an event. A lot of events are starting to happen again. My feeling is, that going indoors for a big event still feels like it's not appropriate. Outdoor events feel safer. So I think just possibly for one more year, I think we should wait to go into the pavilion. But it would be really nice to have an online presence from us if that were possible. So we have a little bit of time to think about that. World Environment Day falls on a Sunday this year, June 5th. So we'll have our virtual art award ceremony that day. If there's something else that, Sustainability Commission could provide, either a film online or something that weekend. I haven't actually approached Megan yet and what do you call it? The Palm Springs Cultural Center, to see if they would want to do a film indoors, or maybe it could be outdoors. It just really depends on the weather. It seems a little risky to plan an outdoor event for June, just because we don't know what the weather is going to do. I wanted to just inquire, what we are planning for Earth Day. If we're going to have a present somewhere, I was thinking, they're semi-related, if we could do something and I wanted to ask you, Roy, also about the milkweed for monarchs, like your project. If somehow we could, do something in honor, to give out milkweeds or sell them or do something. I guess that would be new business, except for I wanted to include it right now because it's coming up so soon. I don't know if we could actually put it on the next agenda. So I just wanted to ask about that because, the timing in the desert, we have to be really careful with the weather. So I think that was kind of everything I wanted to update you on. We'll get the flyer out as soon as we can and just start promoting that. And we will have, the 3 categories of the visual arts, which is 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional art. We have literary art contest. So, and if you know any literary artists that you want to share that with, and also the video submissions, which could be any kind of performance art related to water or water justice. So we'll get that to you soon. I think that's everything. Does anyone have any questions or comments or ideas?
You had inquired about Earth Day and what the plans were. A few months back, we had talked about a variety of events for that week. This is when former manager Tallarico was still with the city, and we talked about reviving psychedelic and doing a tree planting, and then there's the shredding and e-waste event that's on Saturday. We talked about movies. So I obtained costs for those items, and I was approved to do any events that didn't cost anything. So I received no budget support. With that, I was going to follow the similar model that Manager Tallarico followed the last 2 years because of COVID, which were, there were certain tasks that neighborhoods could do, outreach specific to 1PS groups, having the shredding event without having any budget. It really canceled the majority of the ideas that we had come up with. So for next year's fiscal budget, there is a line item in there specifically for Earth Week events. I don't know if it will get approved or not, but that was, I made sure to include that for next year. And then also for the milkweeds, Mayor Middleton did send an email to me saying that she wanted to do the mayor's pledge again this year for monarchs. And so that deadline is March 31st. So I went ahead and signed the pledge for Mayor Middleton. So the city of Palm Springs is pledging again like we have in previous years. And then in terms of access to milkweeds, we were at the farmers market on the first Saturday of this month, and Chair Clark was there, Commissioner Baker was there. We met a person who's volunteering at the animal shelter. He has access to milkweeds. He's also a master gardener. So we do have some information. He sent me some information earlier today about buying milkweed in bulk. Again, that could be a budget item. because the budget is very lean this fiscal year. And so we could ask for that for fiscal year 22-23, which starts July 1st.
So we can't do anything for this April with that.
I can look into it and report back.
Okay, well, I'm happy to help if there's any way that we can, get some more milkweeds out. I think it would be a good thing to disperse around that time.
And I will follow up on that too, with the person that we met at the farmer's market. I think his name was Roger. But Christine Hammond and I were, instrumental in getting milkweed out over a 2-year period. And I'd like to look back at to find out what source of plants this person has. And we still have a possibility of getting plants from the Palm Springs High School Garden Club, which is where we got a lot of them in the past. So there's renewed interest in milkweed and getting it out, as well as the nectar plants, but it probably would be difficult to do anything by the time for Earth Day.
Okay. Well, if there is any way to do it, I'm happy to help and maybe get some to some schools. And I think that would be.
But we'll look into it and
Okay.
perhaps we can get something done.
Perfect. That's
So then we'll move on to dark sky, and Alex is not with us, but Jennifer, has there been any more activity in terms of the outreach flyers?
no.
Thank you. The next item is bicycle routes and cycling. Jake, do you have anything to report there?
Sadly, no. And actually, I was just as you were queuing it up, I was looking to see if we had any traction. I know that we had been trying to meet with the group to move forward with the survey. There's been a sidebar conversation. So I will reach out to that group again. I'll work with you and with Tracy, since you two have also been part of that communication, and we can see where we can go. If not, then I think that we can find, as a community advocate group, we can continue to keep them on in our sites as we look to activate alternative mode transfer, et cetera, as it fits within our own sustainability plan at the commission. So I think that right now, I don't have any new news right now. So, but I'll reach out to that group and I'll see if I can get some new news next month.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. Water conservation, David?
Sure, thank you, Chair Clark. At this morning's EWA board meeting, I updated the board on the airport demonstration garden. The board also authorized additional funding to the Department of Water Resources for environmental planning costs associated with the Delta Conveyance Project, and the amount up to approximately $3.3 million. And finally, water usage continues to increase despite the dry winter and the governor's call for a 15% voluntary cutback in water use, according to Desert Sun in an article posted online this afternoon that will probably be in the print edition tomorrow. The Coachella Valley had the state's largest increase in water consumption from last year at 19%. And as you saw from the announcement that Tracy sent, California Natural Resources Secretary Wade Crawford will join Mayor Pro Tem Garner and DWA President Kristen Bloomer for a press conference tomorrow afternoon to highlight the importance of water sustainability investments in the desert region. And I'll be there, and hopefully some of the others of you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Wellness, Carl?
Hi. So we've updated everything from the Lung Cancer Society on our proposed resolution, and that's good to go. I'm going to share that with HRC, Human Rights Campaign, and just to get their sign off on it, but that's where we are. And we did push to have that added into the list of topics for the city to review for the fiscal year.
Thank you, Carl. And finally, Desert Community Energy.
Okay, Southern California Edison has increased its electricity rates effective March 1. DC rates are also increasing, but the premium for carbon-free energy over SEA's base rate remains at 14%. So we're holding the line there. The Community Advisory Committee will be meeting next Monday, discuss the outreach plan and other updates. As Commissioner Barrett mentioned, DC plans to have a booth at the 1 PS picnic, and he's currently volunteered for some of the time, in addition to Sustainability Commission booth duties. The DC board will meet on March 28th and consider a support letter for AB 1814, which would authorize CCAs like Desert Community Energy to apply for transportation electrification funding. And I'm working with Tracy and Flynn on getting a similar letter on the council agenda for next Thursday. I will also be working with staff to see how to move the city's EV chargers to carbon-free energy. And then finally, the CVAG Executive Committee approved a resolution on February 28th, like the one approved by the DCE board on February 14th, calling on the CPUC to protect rooftop solar and expand access to all households, particularly those of low and moderate income. The resolutions will be filed with the CPUC and sent to Governor Newsom and the local legislative delegation.
Thank you, David.
And yeah, Commissioner Barrett and Baker, the agenda shall probably go either tomorrow or Thursday.
I'll be back Sunday night and on the call Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if there are no more subcommittee reports, we'll move on to commissioner comments and upcoming agenda. So we'll go around amongst the members, the commissioners, to see if you have any additional comments or requests for the upcoming agenda. David?
Nothing further. Thank you, Chair Clark.
Carl?
Nothing at this time.
Don?
Nothing for the agenda.
Randy?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Jennifer?
Nothing.
And Jake?
Nothing.
Well, I do have a couple of things. So the first is I just wanted to remind all of you about the Form 700, which is the Statement of Economic Interests, which is due to the city clerk's office on Monday, March 28th. You've all received that communication and a copy of the form from Tiffany Bailey. And the next item is, let's see, turns out that 3 of the current commissioners are going to be terming out in June. Terming out meaning that they're at the end of their second full term and they're ineligible to be appointed again to the Sustainability Commission. And those people are Commissioner Jennifer Futterman, Vice Chair David Friedman, and me.
Oh, wow.
Right. We realize that it actually poses somewhat of a problem because the current vice chair and chair are terming out at the same time. And in the past, the situation has been that when a chair, if a chair has termed out, there's been a vice chair who's eligible to go on further. And that happened, I think it was in 2019, after Joe Jackson termed out as chair, I became chair, having been vice chair. So, the way it normally works is that the chair and vice chair are elected in July, which is also the time that any new members that are appointed come onto the commission. But we thought that this might be kind of difficult, having a lot of relatively new members and some new members in July, but no one to come up through the ranks to become chair. So I discussed this with Flynn Fagg last week, and he agreed that what we're going to do is to have the election of the chair and the vice chair for 2022-23 at the end of the meeting next month, April 19th. That way, the new people, the new chair and vice chair, will overlap with David and myself for 2 months until we've finished our time on the commission. And that will give us time to help with planning meetings and dealing with some of the issues and so forth. So that, and then the new chair and vice chair they'll be in those positions for the May meeting. So what I'd like to do is ask all of you to think about whether or not you'd like to be chair or vice chair. And then if you would like to be, then please let Tracy and myself know, and then we'll plan to have the election at the end of the meeting on April 19th. And the first order of business will be for the new chair to work on the agenda for the May meeting and run the May meeting. So are there any comments or questions on that? Anybody jumping up and down wanting to?
So Roy, who was terming out? You and David and Carl?
Fetterman.
Fetterman, okay.
And she's been, the driver behind World Environment Day for many years. So are there any volunteers or questions or comments on that?
Help.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Wow.
Is it illegal for us to communicate with other commissioners and say, why don't you consider this? Background, that's not a violation of the Brown Act or anything like that, is it, David?
I don't think it's a violation. If it's between two people, that's less than a quorum, so it's not commission business.
David's commenting, but he's muted. You're muted, David.
It would have to be less than a majority, and I think there are only 8 of us, which means theoretically you could talk to 2 other people, but then they could not talk to other people, so you can't do it as a daisy chain of you talk to 2 people and that person talks to 2 people. So just be careful.
Okay.
But do we have new members? Are there people sort of on deck applying for?
Yeah, do we have a queue?
Yeah, the expectation is that there will be appointments made in June, and the positions will, or the commissioners will start participating in July. We know one of our visitors, Bernard, is interested in, and I do know that the city clerk's office does have applications from people that have been submitted in the past. I don't know if they're all still interested, but there are a number of applications from the past. And it turns out that with the 3 terming out and the 3 vacancies we have, that's 6 positions to be filled. And it's not clear that many will be filled at that time, but that's beyond my pay grade to decide.
So the maximum size is
11.
11, okay.
The ordinance requires or allows for 11 members.
Mhm. Well, I will do some campaigning in 1PS to get people to step forward.
Great, that's really helpful. Any other questions or comments?
That's a great idea, Don.
Okay, so I think that is the end of our meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled to be on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. I expect it will still be via Zoom. If there are no objections, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Nice chair, Clark.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Good night.